time again, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the Don Matrick Memorial Podcast here on Rage Select. I am Jeff. Jason,
I'm Jason.
Where are you coming from this week, Jason?
I am on one of the moons of Neptune, not sure of its name, and the people here are great. They are accepting my boot heel as a subjugated people should. They're doing it graciously, and I am proud to proclaim myself their new ruler.
Okay, so you're like the John Carter. You're the John Carter of Neptune.
Damn right. I am a firm but benevolent ruler.
What kind of special superpowers do you get from Neptune's gamma radiation? I don't know anything about Neptune. I don't even know.
I can outdrink all of them.
Oh, is that it? Is that your one power?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's from Neptune or just like how it is, you know.
Do you have your shirt off the entire time? That's really the question. They give you like a sash, and then you just have your shirt off and a sash, and like, I don't know, a knife, and you're riding Triceratops or something. Is that?
I'm just wearing one of those one-sided Speedo things that only like wraps around one leg.
Okay.
But I got it pulled a little to the side so they can see my butthole and they know I mean business.
You got one of the two veg is just hanging out of the right side the entire time. Just like,
yeah.
Somebody tell him we can see one of his balls. It's like, no,
yeah.
He's a horrible overlord. Don't tell him.
Just like, don't make me get the other nut out, Neptunians. That's when they know the shit has hit the fan.
Well, I see on Twitter. I was actually going to make a joke about you being in Philadelphia this week. Is that what's up with that picture that you posted?
That's where they shoot. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
They don't shoot It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia?
No, they shoot it on Neptune.
Oh, God damn it! They should call it It's Always Sunny on Neptune. That would be a whole different show.
That's at least the exterior for patties that I posted on Facebook and Instagram and everything. I really, really wish it had been at a legit bar. I would have gone in and probably never left and then come up with some wacky, misguided, psychotic plot to make money or make Lethal Weapon 7 or something.
Ooh, that's good. Well, what have you been doing? What have you been doing in your time over there on Neptune? Have you done anything interesting over the last week or so since we've talked to you last?
Just working my ass off. That's about it. Working my ass off. Some Jamesons every night. Yeah, that's about it. I'm not at liberty to give away the details, but it's backbreaking. The work of a galactic overlord is stressful and very sweaty, repetitive, lots of waiting. And just kicking ass and taking names in the name of Rage Select, planted a flag all the way out to Neptune back. Now missed a bunch of Jupiter's moons, so I'm gonna have to head back in that direction at some point. But it's good. It's rewarding work.
Okay, well let me ask you a question. In your quest for galactic super dominance, are you gonna pick? Do you think Infinity Gauntlet or Omega lasers out of your eyes? What is it? Darkseid. He's got the
the Omega beams.
Yeah, Omega beams.
Got to go with the Infinity Gauntlet. It's way more powerful. What are all the gems? Time, speed, sassiness.
That's right. Quesarito.
Quesarito just summons a Quesarito whenever you want.
That's right.
Cheat codes. One of them's like the Game Genie gem.
Yeah. Well, actually, last week I actually got a chance to go to RTX for a day, which was interesting.
Yes, I've heard tales from my lovely wife.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things that I can tell people. Those, because they were like, "Oh, are you going to go to any panels?" I'm like, I don't like waiting in line. I kind of equate waiting in line with like getting punched in the balls over and over again. So
yes,
no, I went, and I was afraid at first that I wasn't going to have the I didn't have the Superstar Rock God pass, right?
Right.
But I managed to get John from a super awesome video game show. He got a super awesome badge through a series of misadventures, and so we were able to weasel our way into the front row of there. We're showing off the Halo Anniversary Edition there.
Oh, cool.
So we went in there and like, sometimes Jason, they got this closed door panel this closed door thing for this, and they take all these Halo fans, they put them in this room, and they showed us it was about a 20-minute presentation. I'd say like a good 17 and a half minutes of that was the menus and what each one of those menus meant. And it was okay, because so if I was going to tell you that you were going to go see the Halo Anniversary Edition, like what would be the things that you would want to see out of that? Outside of the door, because you don't like Halo.
Yeah, the graphics.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I want to see how they've prettied it up.
Right, and so you've seen the graphics for Halo 2. What I was really more interested in was Halo CE 3 and 4, right? Like, what have you guys done with those games? And so they showed another little chunk of Halo 2, and it was just like, oh, okay. Well, that's essentially what we saw at E3. And then it came time for the question and answer period, and I gotta tell you, God damn it, you gamer guys and gals out there, I love you all, but they opened the floor to questions, and people were just like, is this one map gonna be in there? And the guy's like, yeah. They're like, are you guys gonna have this one gun or something? And it was like, yes. And everybody was just like, woo. And so finally they got over to me, and I said the question that I've been asking since E3, it was like, what are you guys doing to the graphics of Halo CE 3 and 4? We've seen 2, but what are you guys doing to update the graphics of Halo, the anniversary edition of Halo CE, and then 3 and 4? What are you doing? And the guy's answer, I wish it wasn't a room full of rabid Halo fans, because I would have liked to have more of laughed in his face than anything else, because he was just like, well, you know, that Halo Anniversary Edition, that's pretty much as good as you can make Halo look. And 3 and 4, those were really good-looking games, so we didn't really feel like blah, 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 blah. And it was just like...
what the shit?
Yeah, exactly. So Halo 2 is the only one that's getting any kind of real love. I mean, I understand that Halo 3 and Halo 4, I mean, especially Halo 4 was a good-looking game, right? But there is a definite difference between the PS3 and Xbox 360 and the PS4 and Xbox One. There's
and what, I love that they just like, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, like I said, I was in a room with a bunch of Halo fans, so I didn't feel like I could just be like, what are you, stupid? That's not true. There's particle effects, there's lighting effects, you can revamp the engine, you can do all kinds of shit. But yeah, so that was the answer to the question that I've been meaning to ask since E3, and I don't know, maybe somebody else, maybe some other intrepid game journalist has already asked it, but yeah. And then they gave us like Halo swag, and we left, and I asked John, I was like, what do I need this little Master Chief thing for? And he was like, well, they're only giving these out at cons this year, so it'll be worth something. So I have started my retirement package.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
good luck with that.
I got it for free. I'm gonna sell it for like $50 later on. But then I also got to see, I tell you what, I saw a lot of indie games. It's actually really, I mean, for those of you who've never been to one of these things, it's a little sad because you'll get these guys, like there's this one booth that was set up that had these 2 games, right? And one of them was this roguelike side-scrolling game. I can't for the life of me remember the name of it. Another one was this game where you're pulling this carriage up a bunch of hills with 2 players. Can't remember the name of that either because meh. And so I was standing between the 2 of them, kind of cutting my focus back and forth between them. And the guy on the right with the roguelike thing, he was so wanted me to start asking him about things. Like he kept looking at me and I kept looking back at the other game whenever he did. It was kind of creepy, right? It was like
was he a developer?
Yeah, he was the guy. I mean, he was like part of a team of like 6 people that developed it, and he was really enthusiastic. But like I saw a bunch of these sorts of games there where you got these little guys who rented out a little space, and they've got one little backdrop and their game on one monitor and a couple of controllers. And a lot of the information that you're getting from them, it's not, I don't know. It's just you walk around like it's kind of like at a certain point you're like, don't make eye contact. Don't make eye contact. He's going to want to.
Oh yeah.
You remember last year when that one guy was trying to tell you about his all-in-one cloud solution for some bullshit that you'll never need in your entire life, and he wanted to give you
save games on the cloud. I'm like, why? This is like, good luck. This shit's gonna be gone. It's like going to the floor on South by Southwest, and it's like, we're doing this thing with social media and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh great, you're gonna be out of business in 9 months.
That's right. Hey, guess what? Facebook's already a thing. So, but yeah, it was like that. I'll tell you, the other thing is last year when I was at RTX, the Devolver Digital booth sold me on Shadow Warrior. Is that I thought blatant cash grab. This is just trading on our nostalgia. Fuck that game. It's just trying to be kind of racist and over the top. And then I played it at RTX, and I was like, holy shit, this is a legitimately fun game. And I ended up absolutely loving it. Well, this year they had a big booth. Their big centerpiece, of course, was Broforce, because they're publishing that now. And I was like, well,
you've played some of that.
I don't need to play Broforce. I played Broforce 100 times. Which apparently, though, they just added 2 new bros, so to speak. They added Cherry Broling from Planet Terror. She's got a gun leg that shoots down.
Oh, yeah. Rose McGowan. Okay. And
then they added a second Chuck Norris, the one from Missing in Action with the grenade launcher. So anyway.
You know what? Give me Jim Cotta or go to hell.
What? Does Jim Cotta really belong in the same game with like 100 people who shoot guns all over the place?
Yeah, he used his gymnastics to fight crazy mountain retards and ninjas.
But how do you I mean, I guess there's a few melee people in Broforce, like Nebro is one of them, but he's got his special power lets him absorb bullets and then shoot them back. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing how Jim Cotta would fit in there. Of course they go ahead.
It'll fit, Jeff.
Okay.
Don't diss Jim Cotta.
Every so often, Jason, the weirdest goddamn thing will push your button and you get this tone in your voice where it's just like, no. And I'm like, okay, Jim Cotta. Jim Cotta, whatever.
And it needs a Blu-ray release for whoever has the power that is listening to make that happen.
I was actually, last week, speaking of that, we played Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and it rekindled some of my, I used to be real big into Gundam. So I started looking around to be like, does any streaming service on the internet let me just watch old ass episodes of Gundam? Nope. Can I buy it on like Amazon? Nope. Is it on Crunchyroll? Nope. It's like, well, how the fuck? How would I go back and watch like the 70s Gundam? Oh, well, you could pay $250 for the Blu-ray Complete Edition that was released in limited edition 2 years ago. And it's just like, wow, God, what the?
Jeff, you're resourceful. I'm sure you can acquire this through some means.
I was trying to be a good dude, but I'm not paying that much in an era where, I'm not. But anyway, at Devolver Digital, I actually saw 2 of the things. You remember at E3 on the Sony conference, how they had the little Devolver like B-roll thing?
Yeah.
They had 2 games on there that I was really interested in. One was called Titan Souls, I believe.
Okay. Is it like a cross between Dark Souls and Titanfall?
No.
Fuck you.
Yeah. I think, Titan Souls. It's basically like, it's a top-down kind of Legend of Zelda. It's got a 16-bit art style. And you play this little guy who has a bow with one arrow. So you shoot that one arrow, and then you hold down the shoot button, and the arrow will actually fly from wherever it is landed in the field back to you, so you can shoot it again. But then the whole game is basically just boss fights, because kind of Shadow of the Colossus style, where there are no just regular enemies.
I remember seeing something like this, yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed pretty cool. I mean, it's a one-hit kill. Like, if you hit the boss in one hit, I mean, some bosses will require, like, there's one boss that was this giant blob that had was it a brain or something in it? And every time you shot it, if your arrow didn't exactly go through the center and hit the brain, then it would split into 2 blobs. And one of them would have the brain and one would not. And so the more times you fucked it up, the more these enemies you had rolling around. It was kind of interesting. It didn't really catch my attention. I mean, I like the stuff that Devolver puts out, so I'll probably check it out.
They got a great track record.
Yeah, but not maybe the best. The one that was, on the other hand, just incredibly just got my juices flowing, was Not a Hero.
Tell me about that one again. I keep hearing the name, but I can't put a game with it. I can't imagine it.
Okay, so kind of like Broforce is an 80s action movie. Not a Hero is like a 90s action movie. And what it basically is, the easiest way to describe it is it is a 2D cover-based shooter. So you'll go kind of like it's like elevator action style, right, into a room, right, and you hit a button, and then your character will basically flatten up against the wall behind a whole bunch of cover that's in these areas, and then you and the other person can take turns popping out and shooting each other. You can do these like rolls. You can roll and hit people and do all this crazy stuff. I mean, I only played a little bit of it, and it took me a couple minutes to kind of get my head wrapped around it, but it's incredibly bloody, it's incredibly violent. And it's kind of like, I don't know. It was really fun, and I'm really, really looking forward to that one.
PC only? What's the story with that?
Oh, well, I assume it's going to be on the PlayStation 4 because they had it at the Sony press conference, right?
Oh, yeah. Hello. Okay, that makes sense.
Let's see, PS4 and PS Vita. I'm guessing PC, PS4, PS Vita. Maybe timed exclusive. Maybe eventually they'll put out like a different version of it. But that was really cool as well.
Speaking of PS4s, Jeff from my trip hooked me up with a PS4.
Yes,
and I didn't take it with me because I was flying and I didn't want it to get damaged or stolen or something like that. So I had Allison ship it to me.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to be extra careful with it. And I just got it today. And it's about to get hooked up once we're doing that podcast. Me and my fellow conqueror, Mr. Brushwood, are going to hook it up and dive into some PS4 deliciousness.
What are you going to play?
I don't know yet. We're going to go through the stack and check it out. Maybe Assassin's Creed 3 or something like that.
Assassin's Creed 4?
I know. I was just fucking with you.
Okay. I was going to say,
yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah, we're going to figure it out. Look at the stack of games you sent along with us. And but yeah, in the box came an Xbox 360, PS4, and my 3DS. So
wow.
All is right with the world now. Also, my Stormtrooper robe. So,
what you really need. That's the one that you really were missing.
Dude, I'm going to go out to all the fanciest bars down on like Rodeo or whatever, wearing my fucking Stormtrooper robe.
Well, you know what? I think I'm pretty sure that I let you take Wolfenstein, right?
Ooh, yeah.
You guys got I think you and Brian would have a really good time playing Wolfenstein. That's really fun game.
I think Brian's already played it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brian's already Brian. Oh, okay. He's in the shower. Yeah, I think Brian's already played it, and he was like, he wasn't that hot on it. He loved the story, but he thought the level design was just uninspired and repetitive.
What? Crazy man. He's a crazy person.
I'm looking forward to diving into it to really getting my hands dirty with that one, because that's what I'm looking forward to. And when we played it, I liked it, and I was like, oh, this is challenging. Okay, I respect that. And next month, I think. You know what? I had dinner the other night with a guy by the name of Rod Krekel.
Okay.
Or Rob Krekel, excuse me. He was one of the guys on the sound design team for The Last of Us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so he was telling me that the PS4 version should be out, next month or something like that?
It's at the end of this month, and it really sucks because Grant and I just finished it. We've been playing it sequentially for the patrons, and we said that if we hadn't, by the time that when this came out, I was like, yeah, when this comes out, I'll totally play up to wherever we are in our playthrough, and then we'll switch over to the PS4 version. It's like, no, you're done. 26 episodes, 13 hours later, the last of us is over.
Well, I'm about to play through it again, I think, once it comes out. Brian and I are going to pick it up, and we're just going to trade off and play through it. So, yeah, looking forward to that. He said it's looking pretty sweet, and it's got the DLC with it.
Yep.
So yeah, he said they just sent off the gold disc like last week.
Oh, you lucky son of a bitch. You see, the thing is that you have been so busy in your life doing stuff that you actually have video games to play. I've got like 4 things I need to review that I just don't have time to record reviews for at this point.
Unfortunately, I can only record on the weekends, or I can only play on the weekends because, I'm working 14-hour days. And so when I get home, it's just like, all right, whiskey, sleep.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into the news, there's one last thing that I saw last night, Jason. I'd like to try to at least counter the myth that Jeff only watches dumb, shitty Transformers movies. Because last week I got a chance to see a movie that I've been really wanting to see for a long time. That was Jodorowsky's Dune.
Oh, I've wanted to see that. Yeah, I'm really curious.
It was, oh my God, it was incredible. Like, the thing is that you go back and you look at this guy's story and that, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with all this stuff, but he wanted to make Dune, but it's this fucking crazy guy, and he wanted to make it with like he just had all of these just bonkers ideas. Like, first thing he did was just rewrite the whole thing the way he wanted it. Because he took the basic framework and then just redid it. In fact, there's this really weird scene where he's talking about how when you take a novel and you turn it into a movie, he's like, you can't respect it. You've got to rape it. You've got to rape it. And I'm like, whoa, dude, whoa. Like,
that's not correct. Did it cover the whole, Salvatore Dali and all the money Dali wanted to be in the movie?
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. They go, apparently, I really want the book because they put this, the guy, there's 2 of them in the world, right? They put together this giant production Bible for the thing that's got
God, that needs to be published.
Yeah, Mobius did all of the storyboards for the entire movie. This guy, God, I just watched, I can't remember his name, who did all these science fiction. He did science fiction book covers. You remember back when they used to be painted? They all had the ships and stuff on them.
They were glorious. Cheesy and beautiful.
He did all these wonderful paintings of all the ships and the outside stuff. And they just had all of this stuff that was all ready to go. And it looks fantastic. And you look at this stuff, and apparently, it got to the end, and basically they needed $15 million to do it. They had 10. They couldn't get the last 5. I mean, spoilers, you guys. You've never seen this movie before. It didn't actually happen. I don't feel like I need to say that, but
yeah, people are going to go out looking for it, and it's not a thing.
But it's funny because I love the Dune books. I mean, they're my favorite sci-fi of all time. And this guy, he was just going berserk with what he wanted to do in the story. He was changing all these things around. He had changed the ending. He was changing all these different things. And I still look at it and go, my God, I really want to see that movie. In fact, towards the end, he's talking. It's this wonderful part where he's like, I got this book. I've had this book for 40 years that's got this entire movie in it. I hope that someday somebody will take it and make an animated movie out of it. But at the time when the guy was putting this shit together, he had everybody, right? Mick Jagger was going to be Fade.
Oh yeah. It's let's find all of the craziest people to be involved in this.
Yeah.
At the height of their drug-fueled bacchanalia. I mean, let's just go down the list, right? Just for the first 4 right now. Right. Mick Jagger, lots of drugs, especially in that time.
Yeah.
Mobius, right? Freaky, weird art.
Sure.
I had a Mobius poster of Wolverine on my wall in high school. I had to take it down because it was too damn weird, and my mom was all freaked out about it. And Jodorowsky,
right,
who's absolutely batshit bananas.
Yeah.
And Salvatore Dali.
Yeah. Oh no, but then you get into more where you're like, he's like, yeah, I wanted to just get a different band to do the music for every planet. And so I went to go see Pink Floyd, and I was like, you need to be in my movie. I mean, apparently Jodorowsky, he was just the most charismatic dude ever. He wanted Pink Floyd to do the soundtrack for one planet. He wanted Orson Welles to be the Baron Harkonnen, and he got him by saying he would get his favorite chef to come cook for him while they were shooting. He wanted David Carradine to be Duke Leto. And this is at a time when these guys were really this was still an accessible thing to get this number of people because everybody was just out there doing their crazy. It's the 70s, we're all on drugs, woo, And this guy had the charisma to be able to convince these people, like, yes, come be in my movie. I mean, he took his own kid and had him train as a martial artist for 2 years to have him play the lead. Like,
you know what's amazing is that this movie didn't happen, and so they made the normal version of it by David Lynch.
Right.
So David Lynch made the normal Dune.
I mean,
chew on that for a second.
But see, the weird thing is that, like, when you look at this project, it spawned so many other things that it's crazy. Like he went and got Giger before Giger was a person to come in and build all the Harkonnen stuff. And I was like, half of those famous Giger images that you see, they were from this. They were developed in the service of this movie, and they just got used elsewhere for other stuff later on. Like, yeah, it's incredible. And so then I went out and I started looking around, and apparently, like, a lot of the stuff that he wanted to do for this got co-opted into a comic called In Inkle or something like that. The Inkle.
Oh, that he did, right?
Yeah, him and Mobius then did a comic, and then they also he found another guy who did another comic called Meta Barons. That has a lot of that stuff in it. And I think I've read like a couple of issues of Meta Barons, and I thought it was great because it was just like one of those, it really reminds you of a 70s sci-fi person, right? Where they're just like, and then he destroyed the entire planet, and then he cut off his own feet, and then he ate his feet, and he got feet powers in his brain, and then he got a cyborg cock. And then he used that to fuck the sun, and then the sun blew up, and then his children all came out of the sun, but they all died in the war with the hamburger people. You're just like, and this is like 3 panels of the comic. You're just like, just fucking
and that's how Gary Marzipan was born.
That's right. Have you ever read Meta Barons?
No, I haven't. I'd like to. I've heard that it's interesting.
Yeah.
That it's peculiar. Have you ever seen any Jodorowsky films?
I have not. They were showing some of his early stuff, El Topo or whatever.
Yeah. It's stupid bullshit garbage.
Oh, is it?
I hate it. I've seen Santa Sangre and Holy Mountain.
Okay.
And I'm at the end of them, I was just like, you know what? Fuck you, man. You weird motherfucker. Tell a story. Come on. Just And so after that, because I wanted to watch all of his big ones. I wanted to watch El Topo and some of the other ones. But after Holy Mountain, I was just like, nope, done.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I looked over the filmography, never seen any of them. I looked at some, they showed some footage of it during the documentary. It looked like the sort of self-referential. See, I have this theory, Jason, that when you're a teenager, right, or when you first start to discover like surrealist, Art Nouveau kind of stuff, that you'll really get into a couple of things, right? But then after a while, you just fucking get sick of it. You're just like, okay, I've seen enough disassociated symbolism that's supposed to talk about the weight of life crushing us. And the first 4 times, it was kind of interesting. And I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. And boy, I'm glad I took this acid before we went to go see that David Lynch movie. But then later on in life, you start to see it. You're like, yeah, we're all miserable. It's blood for cocks all the time. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah. I know you've put a bunch of symbolism in there that no one's ever going to figure out. Great.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Which is why, to bring it all back around again, at the end of the day, sometimes I like watching a movie where the entire plot is shit blows up all the time. So the last 10 minutes were a long justification for your shitty taste in movies. But no, actually, honestly, it just came out on Blu-ray this week, and anybody that out there who has any interest in filmmaking, in weirdos, or in science fiction, I think it's a really fascinating documentary, and I don't see that. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Yeah, I thought it was absolutely great. So, but you know what? Enough of this blubber. Let's just get on to the news. We've got a few stories. It was kind of a lightweight week this week. There wasn't any like real ground shaking stuff. So we're gonna be summer. Yeah, it's July, man. July is rough. Yeah, it's like that scene in Lawrence of Arabia where he's looking out and it's just
like flat nothing forever.
Yeah, well, it was flat nothing last week. I think next week that the who is it? Neil Gaiman Mystery House or whatever. You remember the Kickstarter thing? Was that Gaiman or who was that? Who did that?
That was Gaiman. Yeah.
That comes out
Gaiman.
Next week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I showed that to Allison and she got all tingly.
Yeah. And then next week also the guys that made Xenoclash have a 2D fighting game that's coming out, and I'm just like, those guys are insane people. So we're going to cover both of those. But anyway, to the news. First up is a very, very terrifying story. Apparently, GameStop is toying with the idea of paying developers to create GameStop exclusive content for their games. Now, Jason, every time we talk about GameStop, I mean, you and I are not fans, right? We're not fans of GameStop.
No.
In fact, but I will tell you this. The last few times that I've gone to GameStop, because I went to Best Buy once to pick up a game that we were going to play, and I went there and I was like, give me this game. And they're like, well, we don't have it. I'm like, well, your website says you do. And they're like, well, we don't. So I went to GameStop, bada bing, bada boom, I was out. It wasn't that bad of an experience, but I really, 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 really strongly object to blurring the lines between retail outlet and creative endeavor.
At what point do the developers and publishers just say, no, you know what? Well, I know, I kind of know the answer to this. This is our game. You stay the fuck away from it.
I mean, what I think is I don't necessarily think that it starts in any way, shape, or form insidious like that. I think that what happens is the GameStop looks at how much sell through they have for, like, say, Watch Dogs, right? And so they look at how much profit they've made off Watch Dogs, and they go, "We made X million." We made there was a story that I didn't pull up that was like Watch Dogs shipped 8 million units. Okay, so let's say that GameStop makes a pretty healthy profit, and they come to the developer and they say, if we give you guys like $500,000, how much content would that buy us into your development cycle? If we did that, you could hire another few people to come in and create content, and that content would be only for us and probably not timed exclusive. What do you think, developer? And I think that it would start that way, and the developer would go, oh, well, because he doesn't want money, right? It'd be like, well, it's not going to affect our bottom line. We'll just add a few more missions in over here or things in over here. But what I don't like is the idea that once this shit is a thing, once it's regularly happening, then GameStop coming in to say, well, what you gave us isn't good enough. So now you need to, like, if developers start to rely on that supplemental income instead of being a bonus over the top, they start to put their budgets for games and to factor in a certain amount of money coming from GameStop, then that gives GameStop more leverage over what they get and the quality of what they get and how crucial what they get is to the game. And man, I don't understand this pre-order bullshit and why people don't hate it more. Yeah,
like this whole thing is it really, we've got distributors affecting content. Imagine if like you go to see Guardians of the Galaxy this summer and it's like, and since you saw this at AMC, you get 5 extra minutes of this footage. But we affected it, and we affected the story and how it plays and the content in it. And, it's like, I don't want them influencing the creative process.
Yeah, I guess every time that we do one of these stories, every time we talk about GameStop or pre-ordering or pre-order DLC or any of that stuff, there's always a bunch of people who, or I'll always get a bunch of comments of people that'll come in that'll just be like, I don't understand why it's a big problem, right? You just put some money down and then you blah, 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 blah. And I guess the thing is, it's just like, no other industry does this. And it's not even like the video game industry does this for every game. And it's not like there's even a really good reason to do it. They're just trying to get your money. Like they don't care. They're not like, looking after your best interest. It's not like, hey, get it now. I mean, I know, I've talked with Aaron, I've talked with Fungus Monkey about, those guys have said that, like, sometimes if they know they're going to be short on money later on, they'll put the money down so that they'll know they've got. I mean, they're not looking to guarantee their copy of a game. They just want to buy it right now because they've got an extra $50 and they can't be assured that once the time to get the game comes around, they're going to have an extra $50. And I can understand that, but as an enticing, trying to entice you to do that with crazy incentives, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I think that game development should be over in game development, and that retail outlet should be over in retail outlet, because I don't know of other cases where, I mean, I guess there's some industries where the retail outlet, like Walmart, right, is able to pressure you to set your prices a certain way or to do a certain thing this way. I don't know. Maybe it's all totally reversed and I'm just full of shit. I'm an old man.
Well, I think in the not too distant future, we're going to see GameStop in some dire straits as everything switches to digital. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think that before that happens, that GameStop will probably take a pretty hefty stab at digital content delivery. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to say. I mean, once people get used to GameStop, and then GameStop comes in and says, "Hey, we want to sponsor this download for this game on the PS4. So buy it through the GameStop app, and you'll get these things."
Yeah, they're probably going to do something like that. I mean, we're going to start seeing, splintering of. I mean, we already are. We've got Origin and Steam and stuff like that, and GameStop wants a piece of that pie. I'm just looking forward to the day when there's a Rorschach moment with GameStop, where GameStop is in the gutter, bleeding and reaching up, asking for help, and I will look down and I will say no.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this has happened before, right? I have no nostalgia for getting butt fucked by Blockbuster Video. I'm glad they're gone. I think I still owe them $75 or something like that for a very, very late copy of The Exorcist on VHS. Yeah. I don't miss going to those stores and being at the mercy of them, of like, oh, sorry, all the copies of the movie you wanted to watch are checked out. So
yeah, but we've got 15 copies of Monster-in-Law.
Right. I don't miss any of that. I don't miss. Here's a throwback, Jason. I don't miss getting charged $1 because I forgot to rewind a tape before I took it back.
Okay, you're alienating some of our audience now. Showing your age there, buddy.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Be kind. Rewind.
I don't think. I think that there was this really depressing video that I watched. I don't know if you've listened. Do you ever watch those videos, Jason, where they show a bunch of or they let a bunch of tweens, right, listen to Nirvana and then ask them what they think about it?
I've heard of those, but I've never seen them.
There was one that I saw today when I was looking through some of the news stories that was, here's a bunch of 8-year-olds playing a Game Boy. And here's what, and I just I don't even want to know what they think about it, because they're just going to be like, this is terrible. This is the worst.
I was a kid when the Game Boy came out, as were you.
Yeah.
And it was fucking terrible then.
It played Tetris for about 4 hours with 4 AA batteries in it.
Yeah. That was the Tetris machine. That was the only thing it was good for. Every other game on there was dog shit.
Hey, there was
except for Metroid 2.
There was a crappy Super Mario Brothers game on there that was pretty crappy.
God, it was horrible. There was this awful Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah.
And after I played a few of them, I was just like, okay, so this is the Tetris box. Cool.
You're like, why didn't I get a Game Gear? Why?
Oh, I know. Or a Lynx.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, let's see. Moving on from GameStop. Speaking of pre-orders, I don't know if you saw this, but Alien Isolation is getting some pre-order DLC. Do you see this story, Jason?
Probably I did not.
You've been out there conquering Neptunians.
I'm so cut off from what's going on in the world right now. I have no clue what's happening.
All right, so the 1979 cast of the movie Alien has been reformed to do some dialogue recording for a pre-order DLC bonus of 2 missions that you get or that you could possibly get for Alien Isolation that take place on the Nostromo. One is So there's two. One is a pre-order exclusive for GameStop that will eventually come to be just straight up DLC, and one is for everybody who pre-orders the game total. So apparently the one that the just regular pre-order one is kind of doing things directly after the alien births, right? Everybody's freaking out and stuff. And then the other one
of the greatest scenes in movie history.
Yeah. And the other one is trying to avoid the alien to get to the escape pod. So it looks like little vertical slices. I mean, because a lot of Alien wouldn't make a good video game, right? It's sitting around talking and creeping around like
yeah.
But they're coming back in to re-record all this dialogue. Tom Skerritt, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton. They're all coming in to do their thing with Sigourney Weaver, and this seems like a really cool bonus, especially because they've already got a lot of the tech and a lot of the kind of the single alien creeping around stuff. This seems like a really cool add-on, and this would be the sort of thing that I would be on board with as far as pre-order DLC goes, right? Self-contained, not part of the actual game story, so completely optional, yet enticing enough to make you want to go ahead and maybe give it a shot.
I'll just wait until it comes out as available DLC.
Yeah, I know you will. But yeah,
it got me thinking. The whole conceit of Alien Isolation. Mm-hmm. I want to see that, but with Michael Myers.
Yeah, with in a horror movie setting where you've got one monster.
On a spaceship.
Oh, Michael Myers on a spaceship. Well, you just go to Jason X at that point, right?
Oh, yeah, that sucks. Okay, so, yeah, just a Halloween movie. Or a Friday the 13th movie like that, or game like that, where we don't have to worry about birds and zombies and shit.
I don't know. You know what? I've listened to some of the coverage of Alien Isolation from E3, and I've heard a little bit more about, apparently there are human enemies in the game. You do have a gun, but the moment you shoot it, the alien will come a-running, and you can't shoot shooting the alien doesn't really do jack shit. So it looks like there's going to be some weird social components of like you run into some guy and he's like, whoa, back off. And you pull out your gun and he pulls out his gun and you're like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then, so I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
I really want to get my hands on it. It's one of the ones that I probably wasn't available to actually play at E3, but
I want Randy Pitchford to play it, and I want it to be good, and I want Randy Pitchford to see how good it is and weep so that he may see how hard he failed.
Oh, you gotta let this Pitchford thing go, man. You gotta, at some point, it's just gonna poison you inside.
I don't know what it is, but that just stuck in my craw. Fuck that guy.
You know what I love so much about Aliens Colonial Marines, Jason? I love so much because I wasn't emotionally invested in Aliens Colonial Marines. I look at it from the outside, and so many people were so hurt by it.
I wasn't hurt. I was offended.
Really? After all the shitty movie tie-in games, after all the bad licensed property games, after all the... I'm not even saying not just movie, not just TV, not just fictional license in general, but just shitty video games. You list all the video games that have ever come out in a list, about 70% of them were okay to shit. You know? Like...
But this one, I really felt like, okay... we're not just making a bad game. We're being assholes on purpose.
Well, how so? The whole E3 bait and switch thing?
I know this isn't the case, but it really felt like they were like, well, fuck these guys. They're going to buy it because it's got aliens on it. And yeah, we don't care. Fuck you. Here, we'll take your money and then put it into Borderlands. Eat a dick.
Yeah, but you know what the problem with that attitude is, Jason? They were right. Because that's the story that everybody has with Alien Colonial Marines. Nobody was cautiously optimistic. Nobody, was tiptoeing in to waiting for the reviews to come out. Everyone was just losing their bananas saying this looks like the best game I've ever seen. And I've played every other Aliens game that's ever come out, like the Rebellion Aliens vs. Predator, Aliens vs. Predator 2. Like, I've played a bunch of games with aliens in it. I know that it's really hard to pull that shit off. So I don't know. Anyway, hopefully, I like the fact that they're doing something besides shooting aliens in the face, killing aliens by the
no. This sounds like not just a fingers crossed, cautiously optimistic. This sounds like something that is not just a good aliens game, but a really inventive way to make a tense game. Full stop.
I'll tell you what, we should be able to have something really special when this game comes out. And do you know what that is?
The Oculus Rift.
I finally got off my ass, put my credit card number into the Oculus VR website. So
finally, Jesus, been riding your ass about that for months now.
Jeff, would you just spend $350 already? God damn it!
Is it going to be on? Is it going to be compatible with the Oculus Rift?
I'm not sure if it's coming out of the box, but I know that it was at E3 that they had a playable version of it on the Oculus Rift.
Oh, sweet Christmas. I'm gonna put my dick next to the mic, and I want you to tell me if you can hear my boner throbbing.
Just whoop, 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 whoop.
How's that? Did you hear it?
Yes, that was mighty. That was mighty.
Yeah. I think it's like affecting weather patterns here on Neptune. That's how potent my erection is right now.
Jason gets an erection on Neptune and the weather changes in Japan. That's what happens.
I really, really hope I don't throw one of the moons out of orbit.
The added mass. Okay. Anyway, speaking of things that are not Jason's dick, Mighty Number 9. You remember this one?
It's a little Mega Man. It's
Mega Man.
It's Mega Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
KJ Inafune, they wanted 100K. They wanted $100K. They wanted $98,296 to make Mighty Number 9, which is basically Mega Man because you apparently can't get a Mega Man game made for love or money at this point with Capcom. But so instead of $100,000, they made $4 million.
Holy shit!
Yeah. You didn't know this had happened. This happened a while back. Okay, yeah. So this is a while ago, right? But apparently last week they started a second fundraising campaign. We're on the official web, not through Kickstarter, not through any one of the fundraising things, but on their website they've got a little goal tracker where they say, like, if you want to buy Mighty Number 9 right now, that for like $23 is a $50. No, that's okay. So there's just like buy 100 copies. Anyway, it comes in a bunch of different tiers of pre-order where you could just pre-order the game. Like if you didn't contribute to the Kickstarter, you could pre-order the game. But they have this new thing where they're trying to fund another 100. At first, it was they wanted to fund another $100,000 for English voice acting in the game. And then that changed to $200,000 for English and Japanese voice acting. Now, like,
this sounds incredibly wasteful and stupid and greedy.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, this, they wanted $100,000 to make the entire game. They got $4 million.
Yeah. Are they building like actual Mega Man suits? It's like, ooh, let's develop a Rock Man suit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it makes me wonder what in the name of fuck they like. Seems to me like once you've hit $3 million over your stated goal,
yeah,
that you should be able to add voice acting in. In fact, I'm trying to look here real fast. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so wait, what did I say before their goal was? $100K, right?
Yeah,
well, but okay, no, that's not true. This actually said it was $900,000. It was about $1 million. Was there? I was reading a news story. It was okay. That was something different. Okay. Let me rephrase here. Sorry, folks who are yelling at your podcast. I hate to make you yell at your podcast. Original goal, $900,000, Mighty Number 9. They made $3,845,170. So,
and now they're doing additional fundraising? Kiss my ass.
So they're about of roughly $3 million above their goal. Now let's just see what their stretch goals are. 2 more stages, Mac and Linux versions, New Game Plus and Turbo Mode, making of documentary, boss rush mode, PS3 360 Wii U versions, challenge mode, extra end stage and boss, beck and call online co-op mode, intro stage and boss, support character, PS4 and Xbox One versions, PlayStation Vita and 3DS versions, single player call stage and boss, optional retro style chiptune soundtrack plus effects, and online battle race mode. Seems like one of those could have been voice
actors. Yeah. But yeah, who cares about voice acting in a Mega Man style game? I'd rather just see a really brief bit of text and then get back to the jumping and shooting and dying.
Yeah, I wonder if just how this like overall. There's also a cartoon. They want to make a Mighty Number 9 animated series.
Oh, and they also want to design a Mighty Number 9 Bugatti.
Well, apparently another company wants to make it into an animated series, which kind of makes sense when you look at like the amount of money that it generated. Obviously, people are interested in seeing this, right? So why not go do some cross-media branding? But I don't know. This whole thing just is weird to me. Like sometimes I've seen companies that have to do a double Kickstarter, like once for development, then they finish the game. They're like, well, we don't have enough for cert, right? So we need to do a second one to do cert and the cost of trying to get these things onto consoles or whatever. And I can kind of understand that, especially when if you didn't just blow your goal out of the water, right? If you wanted $80,000 and you got $82,000, and then you get to the end, and you're like, the game is done. And now we just want to try to raise another $10,000 to do the cert cost to get it on Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network. I can understand that. But it seems to me that something that busted its goal this hard should not be trying to get more money out of it.
Yeah, that's got to leave a bad taste in contributors' mouths.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, also, it's not like if this money doesn't get raised, the game isn't coming out or anything. So, I don't know, whatever. I just thought it was weird. I'm kind of, you know what? I'm really interested to know what our audience thinks. What does the folks listening to this podcast think? Do you guys think this is a good move? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's kind of a scumbag? I kind of want to know. Well, here's another story that I'm sure that you didn't see, but this is kind of just a little one-off, Jason, is you remember Neversoft?
Yes, of course.
Neversoft is now completely merged into Infinity Ward and is no longer their own entity. And so they actually had a little thing where they took the Neversoft eyeball with the stuff wrapped around it, and they took it out and burned an effigy of it.
They've been around for a while, too, right?
Yeah, I believe so. It's 20 years. Acquired by Activision in 1999. Let's see. Let me look them up on Wikipedia, and I can tell you everything they did. I know they did Tony Hawk Pro Skater, right? Or Tony Hawk Underground. That was them. That was the first time I remember hearing about them. I'll say they did a port of MDK. Wow, MDK.
MDK, wow.
Thought about that in a long time. Spider-Man. Looks like they did some ports of Tony Hawk Pro. Dude, they ported Tony Hawk Pro Skater to the N-Gage, yo! I can't...
Yeah.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater. They did a lot of Tony Hawk Underground, Underground 2, American Wasteland. They did Gun, which I did not care for. And then they started, and they got moved on to Guitar Hero, right? So they did Guitar Hero 3, Guitar Hero Aerosmith, Guitar Hero 5, Band Hero, Guitar Hero Van Halen, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock. Yeah. So anyway, it's just kind of, that's one of those pour one out stories about, these guys, they made decent enough games. Like Tony Hawk Underground, that was cool. I can't exactly say that I'm like weeping for the loss of one of our greatest game development studios or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up, this is really interesting. I told you before about how I ordered the Oculus, right? Apparently, yes. Oculus VR has had to suspend sales of the Crystal Cove V2 Oculus development kit in China. Why, you ask? Because apparently in China, there are groups that are just buying as many of them as they can in order to repackage them, mark them up, and sell them as a consumer product in China.
Oh, yeah. Classic China.
Oh, China, you scamp. So I like this one line, though, in this article. When asked just how bad the reselling situation was, the rep responded, "We were forced to suspend an entire country from purchasing. I'll let you put two and two together." I mean, I don't know. That brings up an interesting point that there's been a lot of buzz about the Oculus and this stuff, but it's still, it's not a full retail product. It's still, development prototype.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time, at least.
It seems like it's been development prototype for years now, decades.
Yeah, I think that I think this is one of the first times that I've seen, at least in my time with video games, something that started this early in development getting into the hands of people, right? I mean, it used to be like you'd go to like CES or something, and they'd have some kind of crazy prototype that you could play, but you never saw anything like this get into people's hands before it was a retail product, right?
Right. Yeah. It almost seems like I always forget that there's a retail release that's going to happen eventually, Yeah.
Or last week there was even a story where that Oculus hired the design firm that made the Xbox 360 controller, and it made me remember, oh yeah, right. Like, before this thing releases to the public, you'll have people come in to make it look like a slick consumer product and not some kind of horrible black box strapped to the front of your face. It'll be all
yeah.
They'll put
presentable. It won't look like something that you made in Darkman's lab.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I've always wanted to. I've seen some videos online, but what really fascinates me, Jason, is do you know about? You'll have the companies in China that will create like a horrible knockoff video game system.
Yeah. You're going to order one. It's like, wait, this is a Viewmaster.
Yeah, that looks like a PlayStation, like it's molded like a PlayStation, but it just has like a crappy ROM on the inside with like 4 shitty games.
Yeah. I love those.
All right, we got a couple more stories, and we're going to take a break, and then we're going to get to some emails. These are kind of just things of note that I pulled up, and so I'm going to talk about them, and Jason can give me your opinion about what you think about them.
I will.
On July 15th, are you ready? Are you sitting down? 3 days from now. 3 days. What is today? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. On Tuesday, July 15th, you can buy for your personal computer the 2.0 Kinect.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
wonder. No, that could be kind of cool. Could you buy? So you can buy it separately?
Yeah. It's okay. It's the only weird thing about it. It's $200. It's $200.
Okay.
But then you know what? I started thinking about it today, and I don't think Microsoft has yet talked about when you buy one of the Kinect-less Xbox One bundles. I don't think you can buy the Kinect all by itself for your Xbox One. Right?
Oh, really?
Well,
I didn't know that.
I mean, I'm going to look it up on I'll look it up on Amazon here while we're talking. But I've never seen one. I just heard they have a new SKU, but I didn't. Let's see, Kinect 2.0. I'm not seeing any direct. I'm seeing a bunch of mounting kits for the Kinect 2.0, but I'm not seeing just a way to buy straight up Kinect hardware.
Yeah.
There's
my main problem with the Kinect is not what it does, but it's what is them trying to force it on games. Having it to say, walk into your house, Kinect, play music, Riverboat Gamblers, and then it starts playing something. That's pretty awesome. And if I could get that, if I could get that functionality out of my PC, that would kick ass. Or if I could get it out of, if I get an Xbox One and start storing media on it or whatever. That could be cool. I just don't like it being shoehorned into games that would otherwise be good games.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore because by taking it out of the box, they've essentially killed the Kinect, at least in my opinion. I mean, think about this, right? Right before E3, Microsoft took the Kinect out of the Xbox One box and they dropped the price by $100, right? Do you remember in the Microsoft press conference what they announced? Like, or let me put it this way. Do you think anybody at Harmonix is really excited about the fact that they just took the Kinect out of the Xbox One box? Because Fantasia is coming out, and you're not going to be able to play that without the Xbox One.
Oh, yeah.
Dance Central was announced. There was an Xbox One Dance Central announced at E3 this year. Doesn't work without the Xbox One. And who the fuck is going to voluntarily buy the Xbox that's $100 more expensive with the peripheral that most hardcore quotey fingers gamers that I know at least don't use? So,
yeah.
And if it becomes a thing where you can't, I mean, I'm sure you could probably find them on eBay or something like that, but you have to start wondering, like, unless, if this $200 Kinect 2.0 represents how much the Kinect is going to be if you don't buy it bundled in with the Xbox One, I feel like that's information the consumers should know, right? Before they make the decision.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're going to go, ooh, shit, that Fantasia game looks great. I want to play it. But now I've got to spend $200 on a Kinect? Yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of crappy. Let's see. Next up, apparently Ken. You remember? Okay, so take a trip back in time with me, Jason. You remember when Ken Levine was on stages and he had his microphone strapped to his face and he was talking about how Bioshock on the Vita. No.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had completed the sentence. I'm sorry for the delay.
No, it's all right. It was, he had talked about, there was like Bioshock Infinite was supposed to have PlayStation Move support. There's a lot of weird stuff with Bioshock that never actually occurred. But apparently there was a story last week where he was talking with people and he said that the Bioshock game that he wanted to make on the Vita was going to be like a tactics-based game set pre-fall Rapture.
Oh, right. I remember that. Okay.
Which makes me want to weep manly tears because that sounds like Jeff Crack. Total
yeah, it does.
Final Fantasy Tactics in pre-fall Rapture on a.
I bet if you ask Ken Levine about it now. Wait, what? No, sorry. What's the story?
What's the story? Oh, that was it. We just never knew very much about that, and he announced that that's what he kind of wanted to make.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was expecting someone to ask him like, "Hey, remember that BioShock game on the Vita?" He's like, "On the what?" The Vita. He's like, "Oh, the Sony thing." Yeah, that's not happening. Are they still making those?
Yeah, apparently, I was listening to the guys over at Giant Bomb, and they had a person who wrote in who said apparently the Vita is you can't get one. Amazon doesn't have any first-party Vitas. Best Buy, Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, no Vitas. At least as of I think it was a podcast they had like either last week or this week. They were talking about it. That the Borderlands 2 Vita SKU came out, sold, and there haven't been more of them, or that there have been a couple. Like I think it was a GameStop employee said that they were getting like 2 or 3 in a week, and that they are then selling those immediately. So.
I also can't get a life-size statue of Teddy Roosevelt made from camel poo, but I don't want that either, so it doesn't fucking matter.
I think we could do a Kickstarter, Jason, if that's what you're looking for. We could kickstart.
Man, if the potato salad guy can get 40 grand, I can at least get I don't know what the market rate for camel poop is right now, but I can at least get that much money to make a Teddy Roosevelt of camel poop.
So I don't understand. Everybody who donated is getting like a little Ziploc bag with like a dollop of potato salad in it?
Yeah, I don't even like potato salad, period, much less potato salad that's mailed to me.
Right. Like, I don't know if I want mayonnaise going through the unrefrigerated mailing system to my... Plus,
sounds like a bad idea.
I don't know. I mean, that is one of those things that just makes me berserk, Jason, because I look at that and I go, we could have done a Kickstarter for fucking potato salad. Like, okay, well then let's do a Kickstarter for how many burritos could Jason eat in one sitting before he throws up? Like,
yeah.
Like,
I'm down.
Like, that's what I worry about with Kickstarter is what exactly.
The jackasses like us will ruin it.
Well, I don't know if we'll ruin it, but just like you can never tell if you're going to say, how many quesadillas could Jason eat before he has to go to the hospital? Like, every $12 that we get will be another quesadilla that Jason has to eat before, and then our stretch goals will be like, you guys pay for the hospital bills, and then you guys pay for the insulin after he goes into the toxic shock, and these things.
And you get a signed wrapper if you contribute $10.
Right. Well, dude, I don't know. I've never had the quesadilla, but you might want to scale that back a little, or you might want to scale that reward goal up a little bit. If you have to eat one of those for every $10 that people put in, our fans are nuts, man. We'll get like $5,000, right?
Oh yeah,
you'll be on the hook.
Out there will be trying to kill me.
Right, you'll be on the hook to eat quesadillas until you throw up or die.
I like quesadillas, so I will do that until I vomit. I will do it.
I am at day 8 again of no cheese, Jason. No cheese.
Fuck that, man.
I had I'm sorry, I don't know his name. The gentleman over on the Beerist who not John Rubio, not Grant, but there's another guy.
Mike.
Okay. So last week we had a meetup for RTX. We had a meetup at Rio Rita, and a bunch of fans came out. It was, and if you guys are listening, it was so great to see you guys there. I managed to not get drunk and storm off in a huff. That was nice. But at one point, I started talking with Mike about this no cheese thing. And you would have thought that I was telling him, you know what would be cool is if you just cut your dick off. I was like, he was like, are you crazy? Don't eat cheese. Are you an insane person? And I'm like, well, yeah, just try it and then see how you feel and see how much you want to eat cheese. And he's like, cheese is the joy of life. I might as well be dead if I'm not eating cheese. And I'm like, are you not a little bit perturbed by the fact that you just said you'd rather die than stop eating cheese? And he's like, fuck no, cheese is the best. So we're out there in front of all these people, just completely both hammered out of our skull. Like, he's screaming about cheese. I'm screaming about not cheese. He's like, you're smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer right now. You're going to tell me not to eat cheese? And I'm like, it doesn't have anything to do with the... And so it was pretty fun. Thanks to everybody who came out, though.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, it was great. Afterwards, I took a bunch of people over to Magnolia, and I ordered them a bowl of Magmud, and then, which for you guys who don't know, is queso on top of black beans with like avocado and a bunch of pico and stuff in it. And then I sat there and watched them all eat it because I wasn't going to eat the cheese.
I am genuinely sorry I missed seeing everyone like Quick Kick and the like. I know Quick Kick was in town. I don't know actually everybody who made it. Actually went out with one of the guys who made it down there, Jackson. Yeah, we went out to see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes last night.
Excuse me, Jason.
Yeah.
Dong of the Planet of the Apes, please.
That's the one, right?
Yes, that's it.
It was in East LA. It was in a warehouse. It was a weird experience.
Okay. How was that, by the way?
Yeah, ape dick.
How was it?
It was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was predictable. I kept sliding into the uncanny valley. And the lead human character was really boring.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have to. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if RTX is just going to become the new thing where everybody comes to Austin for RTX, or
well, we got PAX hitting San Antonio in the winter, right?
Yeah, I actually just saw that the 3-day passes for people are sold out, but I'm going to maybe email them this weekend and see if I can't get us some press badges or something like that. Otherwise, we'll have to just buy a few 1-day passes or whatever it is. All right, well, we got one more here because we're running a little bit long. This is our last one, just a little story of interest. So Black Tusk Studios, who you may know as former People Can Fly games.
Oh, cool.
Contacted Lester Spate or Spiked or Bigot. I don't know. Does that
And this
name...
is People Can Fly are the guys that did Bulletstorm. Just heads up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who are now Black Tusk Studios, and they contacted Lester. Do you know who Lester is?
I do not.
Lester is the Coltrane.
What?
Yep. Apparently, he's been contacted to start negotiations for doing voice acting for the next Gears of War. And we knew there was a Gears out there somewhere, but this is just, this is confirmation that somewhere Coltrane is going to be the next Gears of War. And I know there's probably about 125 people out there going, well, duh. But, it's always nice to have confirmation.
That's cool. Okay, so people, a bunch of guys from People Can Fly are working on Gears of War.
Yeah. I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, let me just make sure I'm not mistaken, that they made, didn't they make Gears of War Judgment? Yes. Yes, they did.
I didn't really play that, though.
Yes, they did. Painkiller, they made Painkiller, then they made Bulletstorm, and then they made Gears of War Judgment. And then it looks like, so basically after making Bulletstorm, Epic was like, we're so tired of making those Gears of War games. Well, who should we give them to? I don't know. Those guys seem to like dicks and chainsaws. Give it to those guys. Be like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably played Bulletstorm and were like, oh, they get it. Okay. It's like, hey, can you make another like Bulletstorm style game, but without any of the real humor or self-awareness of Bulletstorm?
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but when we come back, we've got your emails coming in. So stay tuned, and we'll see you back here in just a few. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time for the question segment of the Rage Select podcast. But before that happens, Jason, we gotta spend just a second. We gotta pour out a little bit of our Lone Star. It's I've been doing nothing but playing video games and prepping over the last few days. But I was online and I did see that there are no more Ramones.
Yeah, Tommy Ramone kicked the bucket.
Yep. It's a sad day. I don't know. Are you a fan of the Ramones?
I think they're all right. I respect their contributions to punk and everything, but I'm still at the point where I'm like, okay, you've heard one Ramones song, you've heard them all. Yeah,
I think, you know what? I think that's why when I was a teenager and I got a tape of Ramones Mania, and I loved it so much because it was the sort of music that you could just listen to over and over and over again, like catchy, simple, easy to get into songs that were really well put together, and they had good lyrics. But it was one of those things where it was like you don't really get tired, or I never really got tired of it. I would just listen to the same Ramones tape over and over again, and I agree that it was kind of like listening to the exact same song, but there was something about that kind of worked for me. I don't know. In its repetition. So, yep, folks, if you haven't ever, Jason, is it possible there's somebody listening to this podcast that has never heard a Ramones song before?
It's very possible.
Is it possible? Do the kids,
I think so.
Do they know who the Ramones are? The young people of the day. I mean, I know that we have plenty of people who listen to this who are the same age as us, or just a couple years, above or below us, and those people probably all know that stuff. But like for those of you who are maybe like teenagers or in your like early 20s, is it possible that some of you might not have heard of the Ramones? And if that,
I think so.
If it's true, you should go. What would
you need to rectify that?
What would you say the Ramones song that they should start with is? What would you say?
Blitzkrieg Bop.
Mm-hmm. I think I Want to Be Sedated is probably the one of the bigger ones that I think has a really catchy. I remember watching the video for I Want to Be Sedated, and I really liked it with them sitting at the table and all the shit coming through.
I don't remember that.
It was just the four of them like sitting at a table like eating cereal, and then they were like in this hallway and all of these crazy. It was kind of like it was actually very similar to the video. In fact, if I remember correctly, I was drunk one night and I was watching the video, And I think at one point in the video for I Want to Be Sedated, an extremely young Courtney Love walks out in a wedding dress.
Oh, wow.
For a second.
She's so gross.
Yeah. But yeah, or I think that Pet Sematary doesn't get enough love from Ramones fans.
I like Pet Sematary.
It's a good song. So, folks, yeah, go listen to some Ramones. Do yourself a favor if you haven't before. And if you have, what the fuck? I mean, go listen to Ramones. They're good band. So, all right, if you want to send emails into this show, mail@rageselect.com is the email address. Down below, you should see a link to that. So let's get into these questions. Our first one is from Ken. Ken says, "Hi, guys. With the summer movie period almost over, success of these movies is often determined by the profit they bring in. However, we don't hear much about the costs of generating top-tier or even indie game titles and the returns that they make. Do you have an estimate for how much the big titles of last year, GTA 5, Bioshock Infinite, and The Last of Us, cost to produce, and how much they return? And is this ratio better in the current indie game market? Thanks for your insight, Ken." Generally, Ken, we don't tend to hear all that much about either side of that. I mean, I know that there are sites out there like VG Charts that kind of try to do estimates and with as much information as possible. But it seems to me like at least you tell me if you feel differently, Jason, but in the video game industry, like it's much more dick waving over like we shipped 8 million copies, or we've sold through 2 million consoles or whatever. But there never seems to be any kind of like real profit analysis.
Well, yeah, it's it's kind of the same way with movies. I mean, the movie budgets tend to get out there, but everybody likes to guard that pretty closely because it can be embarrassing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, we hear about, Destiny costs 500 million or whatever, but they don't want to break that down for you. And they never really get explicit with, okay, well, 100 million was marketing and 400 million was development and et cetera, et cetera. I'm really interested. I wish that was all public knowledge, but I can understand why it's not.
Yeah. I mean, Ken, the main issue, as we've said before, is just that I don't think there's actually any. I don't think there's any agency. There's no unified agency for video games that could tell you such a thing. There's no unified press agency that I think really digs into that. If the folks listening to this know of a place like that, please, for the love of God, tell me, because I would love to be able to get real hard data on this stuff. But the main problem is just that it does not behoove the company. They have no real good reason to expose that sort of information to us. The same way that a lot of times when we'll see stories about studio closures or people getting fired or games that got canceled for this reason or for that reason or whatever, a lot of times we don't get a lot of information about that because there's just not as much. There's no real reason for a company to air their dirty laundry, and I feel like there's maybe not as much. I don't know. It seems to me, Jason, that in the movie industry, there's a lot more insider people who have been kind of in and around and rubbing up against that industry long enough that they're able to kind of suss out the scuttlebutt for that sort of thing and make it public in a way where the power that those particular journalists or critics or reviewers or industry people hold is high enough that so if I was to say let's just say that we don't, but let's just say that if I had a relationship with Activision and I was able to get Activision to send me every game they put out, right, and then I went and started digging around and I found some kind of discrepancy or some kind of hard data that said that they didn't make as much as they said they did or whatever, and then I reported on that, there's really not anything at that point that says, well, Activision, you could do that once, right? You could be that industry insider one time and then nobody's ever going to fucking tell you anything ever again, right? The company isn't going to deal with you anymore. People who work there aren't going to talk to you because they know if they do that their NDAs are going to get busted and that blah, 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 blah. So it's a really difficult side of, I think, all of these industries, right? Movies and music and video games and any kind of entertainment property where there's a lot of money involved, where you got to really be careful about disseminating information or using people's names and things like that, because there just aren't that many protections in this world anymore against once you've done that, you've essentially burned you've burned it. You got one time that you can do that, and then after that,
yeah, exactly. Better make it count.
Right. It better be something important. It better not just be like the development budget for Bioshock Infinite, down to the number. If you just do that, like the game's already out, it's already sold, the company's already dissolved. At this point, like let's say that I knew the exact development budget of Bioshock Infinite and I had the exact sales figures to be able to tell exactly how much profit that made. If I was to release that to the public, well, 2K would never talk to me ever again, or they don't now. I mean, but
oh yeah, no, you would be persona non grata,
right? But then not only that, but then most other companies and most of the other higher tier people in those companies would then know your name and they wouldn't want to talk to you. So at this point, we're kind of at the mercy of those. We're kind of at the mercy of those companies, unless when you do see weird leaks come out of these companies, like Battlefield Hardline stuff gets pulled, or like the GTA 5 pre-order code, pre-order data on the PlayStation gets downloaded in Europe and hacked apart so they can tell you what the soundtrack is. Like that stuff generally tends to happen in fringe hacker communities where nobody there gives a shit whether or not, EA will talk to them ever again. So
yeah.
It's just really
it's that's something with being in like the position we're in, is that we still do have to maintain some relationships.
I sometimes really wish that, I mean, maybe someday it'll happen, but I've put this idea out there before. I really wish there was some kind of intermediary organization that would sit in between game companies and journalists, or I don't even know. I don't even think that at this point you and I are really considered journalists. Just screaming out your dick, that makes you a journalist, right? You're like, dicks and Taco Bell, I'm a journalist. You will respect me. But like for when you talk about getting review copies for a game or things like that, I honestly think that there should be some kind of intermediary that would not only act as a larger organization that could broker, that could distribute that stuff to the people who really needed it, but that could also assuage, because I know there's a lot of fear with a lot of people out there who pay attention to the video game industry that journalists are getting swayed, right, by getting, payoffs in the form of collector's editions or, a lot of swag or
or early access or something like that.
Right. Whereas if there was some third party organization that was not a press who's looking for scoops and not the game industry that's looking to protect themselves and make themselves look as good as possible, some kind of intermediary between there, I think that could be a really good thing personally, because then instead of having to contact every single goddamn game company to try to get a review copy of a game, you could just contact this intermediary who would send you, just a bare bones OEM copy of a game without a bunch of statues or whatever. And I don't know. I think that could work, but then you'd probably have to spend about 20 years building up goodwill and all the contacts in the industry to finally put that together, and then you'd probably still get a bunch of people who didn't like it and were boycotting it, and then the whole thing falls apart. So I don't know. I don't know. Do you think it's possible, Jason, that you could make any kind of like? Do you think you could pass like a law or something that said that you can't, if you've got a news agency, that you can't cut them out because they've reported on something that you didn't want people to know about? It's really hard though, right? Like,
yeah, that's sketchy. I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
You're trying to force goodwill by law on companies. I don't
but
think that could work.
You are also way off track of the question.
Yeah. All right, so next question comes in from Vesico. Vesico, you remember the guy who got hired on over at Ubisoft, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he says, hello, guys. Vesico here. First impression at the new job, people in the gaming industry don't give a flying fuck about how they look. Long beards, messy haircuts, wrinkled clothes, a lot of overweight people, and today I saw my boss wearing flip-flops. Gasp. This is new to me, since no matter where I've worked, I've always been asked to look presentable. So my question is this: why do you think that gamers, whose parentheses here, real gamers, put little to no effort into their appearances, even when they are given the opportunity? We have a gym at work, and I'm the only one using it. Also, fun fact, this weekend I went to Rome and got arrested at the Vatican. Hey, good job.
Yeah. Oh, Vesico, you can't see this right now, but I am high-fiving you as ferociously as I can.
Rage on, you magnificent bastards. And then he says that he can't give me any scoops. They made me sign a non-disclosure agreement with blood. And I'm like, well, that sounds about right for Ubisoft.
Yeah. Yeah, I figure.
So what do you think? Gamers, the whole gamer, why are gamers so filthy, dirty, overweight slobs with Cheetos on their shirt?
Well, specifically game developers. I mean, let's just talk about gamers in general. That's kind of a broad term now, and I think it encompasses all different types. But I think for the hardcore gamers and how some people still perceive gamers, you'll still find that alive in game development studios, primarily male, primarily white, lots of, lacking social skills and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not all of them. I mean, I'll mention, had dinner with Rob Krekel the other night, and he was a charming, handsome dude with a family and everything. Good guy. But you also have to think that these people are working real fucking hard, like stupid, insane hours, sometimes sleeping under their desks for like an hour and then getting up and going back to work, during crunch time and everything. So, yeah, hygiene and fashion take a back seat.
Well, I'm also going to tell you this, Vesico. Why would you go to the gym when you could be playing video games? Why would you shave when you could be playing video games? Why would you do laundry when you could be playing goddamn video games? And yes, that's a joke. I'm not actually suggesting that you all stop like shaving or bathing or washing your clothing.
Don't be like Jeff.
Hey, I take a shower anytime anybody's going to be here in the same room as me. I'm not looking to funk the place up with my own dirty skankiness. And I got to tell you that whenever I shave my beard, invariably, whenever I shave my beard off, somehow the planets align and we've got to be on camera for a minute.
Yeah.
And everybody's like,
you look like a weirdo.
And they're like, oh, where's your beard? I mean, it is 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the surface of the sun outside here. You guys think that I really want to have a fucking chin weasel going on right now? No, I'd like to dip my entire head in Nair and just take it all off.
Look like Lex Luthor.
That's right. Like powder. That's what I want to do. I'm going for that powder look. I don't know. I think that, whether it's the stereotype, of people who are
some stereotypes exist for a reason.
Right. Well, you've got this idea that one of the reasons that some people get into video games is because they don't this is a way for them to have an interaction with the world that is not going out and talking with people who judge them because maybe
I think that's an outdated mode of thought.
I think so, but I think it's also a self-perpetuating type of thing. I don't know. I sometimes wonder about, that's the meme, and so there are definitely people who don't tie into that, but that you also, I mean, let's just be honest here. It's way easier to give less of a shit about your personal hygiene than it is to spend time giving a shit about your personal hygiene, right? And if you've got something that's fulfilling in the way of video games, I don't know. This is getting really sad. So I don't know. I think there's time for all that stuff. It's interesting for me to see that because last time that I worked at a game studio, there was a lot of shall we say misfits amongst people who worked there. Mostly because a lot of what the video game industry will demand out of you is insane. It's an insane thing for insane people who really care about doing this stuff because, what other job would just be like, well, now you're going to work 80 hours a week for 3 months because we got to ship this thing. And you just go, oh, yeah, well, that's cool. My family doesn't need to see me and I don't have a life. So I'll just sleep
I don't know if
desk.
I'm cut out for that.
I don't think you are. I think you and I have found the perfect place where neither one of us has to shower, but we still choose to, and then we could just sit here and look at stuff. And like I said, quesaritos and dicks. So,
quesaritos and dicks, our mantra.
I'm going to change that for the classiest podcast on the internet to quesaritos and dicks. Rage select. All right, this next one comes in from our friend Jalen or Jalen. Never been able to suss that one out. Hello, Jeff and Jason. I've been browsing around the internet looking for new comics to get into when I stumbled into Wikipedia to find a whole bunch of legacy characters, people that have taken over the mantle of. I'm not reading this right. I've been browsing around the internet looking for new comics to get into. Maybe I was browsing around the internet when I stumbled into Wikipedia to find a whole bunch of legacy characters. People that have taken over the mantle of popular heroes like Ben Reilly as Spider-Man, Bucky Barnes as Captain America, and the newest entry of Kamala Khan as the new Ms. Marvel. I was astounded at how many people have taken over the mantle of these popular characters. I then look at video games and realize that there are not as many legacy characters for video games as movies. So I have a question for Ragers. Why can't fans ever embrace new characters? I love Peter Parker as Spider-Man, but a new guy in the suit is not a bad idea. Also, it baffles me that we still tell stories with the same 10 main X-Men, even bringing younger versions back from the past. All new X-Men, when it has been established that they are everywhere. We can't find another group to follow and their adventures. Sorry for the long email. Thank you for the entertainment, and praise be to Damocles Jalen. I think I might have... I don't know if I was not reading that right or it kind of took some weird turns, but it seems like he's asking, in comics at least, that you'll have other characters to take up the mantle of iconic heroes.
Yeah.
And he kind of seems to be asking, one, why don't people like that, or why don't we see that more in other places? And two, why don't we see it in video games? Why can't... Okay, well, I think it's a general question. Why can't fans ever embrace new characters? There we go.
Well, yeah, it's tough because, you rarely see a new character introduced in the comics that really takes off. Like the last really successful character that was introduced at Marvel, anyway, was Deadpool. And that was in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what it is, because you would think that people would be, more experimental and really want to embrace new things. But I get it. It's like, my favorite lineup of the X-Men is like, a bunch of the ones that appeared in Giant Size X-Men way back in the day.
I think I disagree at a fundamental level about people liking new and experimental stuff. I don't think people do like that. I think you've really got to trick them into that stuff. They want to see Batman. They want to see Batman being Batman. And
yeah,
and
the Star Wars films, the new ones are facing that right now. It's like, well, we gotta put Han Solo in there, but he's an old guy now,
right?
So we also have to introduce these new characters, and hopefully everyone embraces them so that episode 8 and 9 are a success.
I also think it gets into this. I mean, I also think that we a lot of times see people will tint the things they like. This is standard, right? This is not a new revelation, but people will look back on the things that they have enjoyed over their past, especially things that they discovered when they were children or in their teenage years, with rose-colored glasses. And anything that you try to do, it's hard for them not to just compare that to the old stuff and then just go, well, no, that was better. This is shit. Move on. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when who was the Spider-Man, the ultimate Spider-Man kid that they brought in? Miles Morales?
Miles Morales, yeah.
I remember just seeing people freak the fuck out about that. And I was like, are you kidding me? We've had enough Peter Parker Spider-Man stories that you could go back and read them from the beginning, and by the time you got to the last Peter Parker Spider-Man story, it would be like 5 years later, right? You could just go back and start over again. I mean, why not try to bring a fresh take into something?
Yeah, and Miles Morales is actually pretty badass. That's a great story.
Or guess what was everybody talks a big game about the Blue Beetle, what was the kid? It was a new kid. Reyes, right. As opposed to the old, what's his face? Watchman, Night Owl guy or whatever. The guy that the Night Owl was based on. The old Blue Beetle. Ted Kord, the old Blue Beetle?
Was it Ted Kord? Yes, it was.
That was around forever. So, I don't know. I personally have always been... I'm always a fan of something that's new and interesting. And... I know that sometimes maybe it doesn't seem that way, but as long as you can get some interesting I mean, I don't know. Maybe also it's maybe an age thing, Jason, is that you get to a certain point where you're like, Jesus, I've seen this story so many times. You just do something.
Yeah. Well, one of the, people, speaking of people assuming the costume or whatever, one of the best Batman arcs was written by Scott Snyder when it was Dick Grayson under the cowl, when Bruce Wayne was, quote unquote, dead.
Oh, is that when he was, Damian was his Robin?
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked that because Batman is such a he's in the comics he has evolved at this point into the smartest guy in the room, and he's got a plan for everything, and he's just like nobody can beat him because he's fucking Batman. He's the best. He's blah blah blah. And I really liked Dick Grayson having to pretend that he was the smartest guy in the room and trying to kind of get his feet, because he knew that part of Batman's power was just the confidence that Batman exuded, that you can never let him see that you maybe don't know what you're doing. And I think that was a really cool storyline. Has there ever been a different there's Superboy, and there was like all the different like weird Splinter Supermans, but has there been was there a Superman 2? Was there?
I don't. Not that I can think of. There probably was, but nothing comes to mind right now.
I mean, they futzed around, like they put him in the electric suit and shit, but
it's always been Kal-El, as far as I know.
Okay.
Unless you go back to something weird, like in the '60s or something, there's probably some other guy there. But I think it was always Kal-El.
But in answer to Jalen's question, I think that if you just every time that they go in to do look at every time there is a quote unquote reimagining or a reboot or something like that, everybody fucking hates it. Like or not everybody hates it, but there's a bunch of really vocal people who will not shut up about how much they like the previous thing better than this thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and comic book companies in particular are adverse to change.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hell, look at
they don't want anyone to progress past the point where they were the most popular. That's why you always see Spider-Man as a kid in movies and cartoons and stuff like that.
I mean, look at the reaction of fans to DMC, right?
Yeah, right.
I had no problem with DMC, but I knew a lot of people who were just they would dig into that character to find to find these things which I don't feel should have been held up as like, look, this is the worst, and you're like, he says fuck a lot. They're like, yeah, but he didn't before. You go, well, okay. Does that make this the worst game ever? Yes, it's the worst. I have a problem because I feel like I don't know if it was like this or if it's just we see more people's opinions now because of the internet. But I get the feeling anymore that just nobody wants anything that isn't just the thing. They just want the same thing and they want it over and
over, presented in new ways, which it's like, if you've only got a couple of ingredients, there's only so much you can do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, just before we close out of this, I'm the person who will sit here and tell you how I didn't like that new Superman movie because because I like Superman the way he is in the comics. And so I'm guilty of the exact same goddamn thing. I mean,
oh yeah, me too.
It's just, it's hard a lot of times to get away from that. It's just extremely difficult not to compare the new thing to the old thing. And it takes a lot of work to distance yourself from a thing that you liked a whole lot. I don't know. Do you think that the new Star Wars movies are just going to get like shit on? I mean, do you think there's going to be?
It doesn't matter how good they are. People are still going to rebel against them. It's honestly, Episode 7 could be Jesus Christ himself walking into the theater and healing everyone, and people will say, "Oh, it's still not as good as Empire Strikes Back."
Yeah. Yeah, I there was a cracked article that I was reading the other day that was like 4 reasons why that new Star Wars movie is going to suck, and like one.
Yeah, I read that, and they're okay points. They're not wrong, but it's all stuff that could potentially happen. But it was very snarky and trolling for hits too.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing, is that with the advent of the internet, maybe it just seems like there's more hate out there than there actually is, because anytime anything is you and I could sit here as an intellectual exercise. You can criticize anything right?
Oh, yeah.
You could take anything and just make a case for why it is dumb dog shit. You saw it come out when the Avengers came out, and then the people who were very anti-Avengers were like, here's a bunch of plot holes. And I was like, okay, cool. It's got plot holes. I don't give a shit. Captain America punched a guy, right?
Right.
That's the Transformers part of me from the first part. It's just like, yeah, punch a guy, Thor. Boom. I'm good. But you could poke holes in anything. And you could make a case why anything is total garbage. That's not very difficult. I just feel like we're seeing it more and more often than we used to. But all right, next up, this one's from Matt. Matt is asking us for some advice, Jason. Dear Jeff and Jason, for the past few months, I have been going through a tremendous bitch of a creative block. It has had a profoundly negative impact on my social and professional life. He says, I was a pretty decent amateur comedian and writer just before this thing started. And it has driven me to varying degrees of insanity. My work lately has been desperate drivel at best, and many of my acquaintances won't stop asking what's wrong since my thoughts have been getting increasingly more jumbled. Is there any way I can get the juices flowing again? Do I have brain damage? Have I simply run out of shit before getting anywhere? Please give any advice you can. Longtime fan, Matt.
Drugs.
Do drugs. No, don't do drugs. You can't tell people that, man. You can't tell people that, Jason.
Yeah, no. I think what a couple of solutions. Go on a vacation. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or anything like that. Even if it's getting yourself a cheap motel on the side of the highway and just locking yourself away for a while, or just don't try for a while and absorb lots of things that inspire you, whether it's books or movies or songs or other comedians or whatever, and just take that all in. Just devour it for like a good week or two, and don't try to write anything, and then come back and try it again. But I like the vacation approach where you just don't do anything, and then you maybe a combination of both. Go on vacation for a week. Don't try to write anything. Don't watch anything. Just kind of collect yourself. Let all of your spinning particles go back to their center of gravity. And then once that's done, dive in, watch some stuff that you really like. Watch a lot of comedy in your case, or read a lot of books, read a lot of comic books, play a lot of video games, whatever. And then at the end of those 2 weeks or whatever, see what happens.
Yeah, I think that for my money, one of the greatest blocks that you can have a lot of time. I mean, it kind of depends on whether you're in the ways of your creation are more just kind of like ad hoc shit comes to you. People are like, you say all this crazy shit and I love it. Or if it's more of like a very much sitting down and kind of crafting an individual thing. But I find that, at least for my money, the harder you try sometimes, the worse this shit will get. So if you could just...
Yeah, don't brute force your way through a block.
Right. You have to move away from it. Quit trying, right? And it's going to take some mental work, but you have to quit. And this is the worst advice ever, Jason. So just give up and quit trying. That's not what I'm saying. You just have to calm down and don't be like disappointed if you can't come up with anything, right? Just relax and try to do what Jason says, take a break, but make sure that if you go out with your friends all the time, and they're like, oh my God, you're so funny. And then they're like, oh my God, you're not funny right now. Like, just put that shit out of your brain and just be fine with don't feel like you have to be driven in order to be entertaining. Because I'll tell you right now that there have been a few days where Jason and I have sat down to record, and I've been like, all right, got to turn the funny on. It's never any good.
Oops, I crapped my pants.
That's right. Now that's funny. All right. Have you tried crapping your pants? It'll really do wonders for your outlook on life.
Yeah, clear up your chakras and everything.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, writing doesn't, like my lack of inspiration doesn't seem so bad as opposed to the shit that's in my drawers. But yeah, I would say as far as jumbled thoughts go, once again, I don't know. I'd say just calm down, relax, get away from it for a little while, and don't put pressure. You can put pressure on yourself when you come back, but just don't put any pressure on yourself for a little while. I mean, you could even say that if you want to sit down and try writing and just be like, just write whatever. Just don't Don't try to make it funny. Don't try to make it interesting. Just sit down and just write a bunch of shit, and who gives a fuck? Don't ever show it to anybody. You know, it's usually some of the best stuff that you'll come up with is not when you're sitting there like, gotta get a good idea, gotta have a good idea, something good's gotta happen in a minute. I mean, half the time when I'm trying to get ideas for stuff, like Jason and I will have some conundrum, right, that we're trying to figure out, and I'll spend like 2 days thinking about it, and then we'll be at the bar like drinking. I'll be like, oh, hey, I just thought of this thing. What do you think? He's like, yeah, that's it. It's like, great. I spent 2 days thinking about this thing and agonizing over it. Nothing. And then I spent 10 minutes drinking beer and was just like, oh, there it is. This is totally the solution. Boom. Done. All right. This one comes in from, I'm going to say Austin, and it's one we haven't had in a while. So, hello, Ragers. What is you guys' most hated video game mechanic? Stuff that appears in multiple games is stupid and for whatever reason keeps showing up. For example, mashing a button to open a door/chest, 6-axis for the PS3, PS4. My choice is balancing on a beam over chasms. It's stupid and annoying every time. Austin. What do you think, Jason?
I'm going to go. This is kind of a cheat, but it's no surprise. I'm going to go with Kinect interactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Required Kinect interactivity.
I think that any time that you start integrating, like, hey, do you want to post this to your Twitter feed? You'd be like, no, I don't want to post this. Like, I had a friend when that first PS3, one of my friends is really big into the PS3, and they had that update where you could connect your PS3 to Facebook, and it would post on your Facebook page every time you got a trophy or, like, did a thing. I almost had to unfriend him. I had to hide him for a while, and I had to say, like, look, you tell me when you're done with this shit, because every day I'm getting like 7 posts from you on Facebook that are just like, this guy got a trophy. This is this trophy. This is this trophy. And it's just like, look, man, I love you, but nobody gives a fuck about your trophies on the Uncharted 2. Nobody does. I think, though, the thing that I am actually starting to see that I really don't like more and more is second screen mechanics.
Yeah, that just really breaks the immersiveness. That's one of the big problems that we've talked about on the Wii U, is that I just like it's like, okay, I'm into the game. I'm living in this world right now, and then I have to look down and like wait and completely change my perspective and my attention and my the depth that I'm looking into, and it breaks everything for me. Like I was playing the Mario Kart with Allison on the Wii U,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, wow, I wish there was a map on the screen. Well, there's one on the Wii U, but I'm not going to look down.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of the things that kind of keeps me, like, whenever a Wii U game comes out, what I do is I turn my Wii U on, and then I put the game in, and then I immediately grab the Wii U controller that I bought, the just regular ass Nintendo controller with sticks and a D-pad, and go, can I play the game with this? Because I'm not interested in having that stuff off the screen. And in fact, when you look at the leaps and bounds over the years that we have made with getting all the information that you need to play a video game on the screen in as unobtrusive a way as humanly possible, this to me seems like a step in the wrong direction, because it breaks your concentration. That and I have to say that I really don't like it when they also try to use that stuff. I was really glad that at E3, I don't think I heard the word smart glass once, and I was really happy about that, because I watched all this shit. Microsoft was not out there like, and get the special smart glass app for your Halo anniversary on the Xbox One, blah, 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 because, boy, they seemed like they were getting ready to push that shit hard, and it was just like, I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah, I guess they didn't really get a lot of purchase on that, or maybe there were some technical problems during development that caused them to back away from it. Either way, I'm happy.
Yeah. As far as in-game, I think the last thing to come up that was really irritating to me was putting vital game information in tooltips on loading screens. I think that...
Oh, yeah, because during a loading screen, sometimes you read it. It's like, okay, I guess I'll read this, but a lot of times, like, I'm going to go grab another beer.
Well, for me, there was at least 3 or 4 games. I remember Operation Raccoon City, the Resident Evil game, was one of them, where they had a tutorial that taught you how to do like the basic stuff. But then there was a whole bunch of other stuff that was only explained in random loading screen tooltips. And so every so often, randomly, you would see a tooltip come up and you go, oh, holy shit, I didn't even know I could do that, right? I've been playing this game for 4 hours. I didn't know that you could roll dodge into a cancel counter, blah, 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 and go, that would have been really lovely to have known. So, yeah, that's it, Austin. Next one comes in from Dan. Dan says, Dear Ragers, long-time listener since the dark days of lore. I think you mean your. Dan. I have a question about Telltale games, and I'm not sure how to explain my problem with them. I love their stuff, Sam & Max, Back to the Future, Walking Dead, Fables. Stories are great, but the thing that irks me about them is how bad the games play. Clunky animations, off-sync, lots of lag. Also, the illusion of choice is a bigger problem. Too big for this question. I understand maybe they're a smaller game studio, but why is it so bad? I don't mean bad like they are terrible games, but it kind of plays as if I'm playing a good game on a bad old PC that can barely run it. Even on the PS3, it kind of stutters and has awkward pauses. From Dan.
Well, Telltale is a very different experience. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but it's, as I've said before, it's barely a game. It's more like a choose your own adventure. It's not bad, but the game aspect of it is exceptionally minimal. Yeah, I mean, that don't they release the Telltale games on an iPad and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's got to be it can't be a specialized engine. It can't be like it could probably be there's some sort of optimizations going on in the engine, but they release it on multiple platforms. And the biggest thing to remember is just the fact that they don't have time. They're releasing these things in an episodic way, which means that they have, a very small amount of time to put this stuff together. So they can't focus on polishing the shit out of it because they're not selling you a fully complete $60 game. They're selling you one episode a month. So you basically got, or is it like once every 2 months now that they're putting the stuff out? Like,
ish. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I know Fables just concluded. The next part of Walking Dead is coming out pretty soon here. Yeah. So I think that, a lot of it just ends up being you've got limitations. Like, it's not like the sort of thing you can't push the next episode of Fables back by 2 months, right? You can't push the next episode of Fables off to 2015 because, pitchforks and torches and
there is that. Yeah.
That sort of thing. So I think that they don't have time to make sure that every single aspect of those games is entirely perfect. Also, I think it's worth noting that, and I don't know how you should feel about this, right? But these games aren't more than like $20 for the whole season. I mean, you're talking
exceptionally cheap.
Yeah. So it's obvious that their priority just isn't in making the most technically like fantastic game that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah, they're more focused on telling a story.
Yeah.
Not having you interact with a story, but telling a story.
Yeah. I don't know if we should do, I don't know. Grant and I considered making our next full playthrough be The Wolf Among Us, but the problem is that those games require a lot of paying attention. We're not good at paying attention.
We're pretty bad at that.
We're pretty bad at, especially in games with long, intricate dialogue sequences. It's like, at about 4 to 5, the fourth or fifth back and forth between those characters, I'm just like, go.
Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. What's next? Come on, monsters, go.
Right. Yeah, so that's that. Next one comes in from our good friend Josh, and Josh says, "Hey guys, my question is more movie related, but I think you can run into this with the gaming industry as well. This came out this weekend, so it's topical, Jason. I'm pretty sure you already know the story, but I'm interested in your take on it because I don't know if I've heard it before." Okay. A few months ago, I saw the trailer for the movie Snowpiercer. It looked like a really interesting post-apocalyptic film taking place on a train, and I was looking forward to watching it in theaters. After a while, I was getting impatient for the release, so I started researching it online. Apparently, the film was released over a year ago in Korea, but the owner of Weinstein Film Studios, Harvey Weinstein, didn't like the ending of the movie, and the director essentially told him to go fuck himself, so Harvey buried it. It wasn't until there was an outpouring of fan fervor and a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes that the film studio finally capitulated and gave it a limited U.S. release. That meant unless you lived in a city with an art house theater, chances are you were never going to see this film in the United States unless you went outside of normal channels. Winky face emoticon. So in the end, this censorship has nothing to do with making money. In fact, it was a fundamentally bad business choice for Weinstein Film Studios because the film had a huge fan base and was well received by the critics. It was about placating the massive ego of a powerful man, a man who thought he knew how to make the film better than the director, writer, or anyone else. What do you do when supply and demand is thrown out the window, not because of legal or monetary reasons, but simply because some studio or some executive didn't like it? Sorry if this is kind of long-winded, but it really pissed me off. Love the show and keep up the great work, guys. Josh. Now, so you heard about this, right?
Yeah, and they were going to edit Snowpiercer, and then there was an uproar online, and they decided not to. I hear that Snowpiercer is very good as it is. But I do take issue with one part of his question where he said that Snowpiercer or that the Weinstein Company's motives were not financial in nature. Mm-hmm. And that's completely incorrect. They wanted to edit it so that it would appeal to more people and so that they could make more money. And in that, he said that, critics are loving it and everything, and 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. But how many people are spending money on it? That's the real question, and I think that's where the Weinsteins excel. I don't know how good or bad Snowpiercer is doing domestically right now, but we'll never really know how well it would do if the Weinsteins had their way and they chopped it down and recut it to make it something more commercial, which they've done many times before. So you can't really. It's something where you can't really figure out. It's almost a Schrodinger's cat in a way. You can't really figure out, well, it would have been more successful had they released it their way or whatever. Now, that said, respect the filmmaker. Stop chopping this shit up. And on the other hand, I have seen some movies that have been taken away from the filmmaker because they were garbage. And once the producer got their hands on it, it improved the movie exponentially. Mm-hmm. That's not usually the case. I usually side with the director, but sometimes the director is wrong.
Okay, so just to put this in perspective, though, right? I think, from I remember when I was hearing these news stories back when this was a thing, right? Was that the Weinstein Company bought the rights to release Snowpiercer in the United States. But Weinstein wanted to go in, as, like you said, he has done many times before, and basically chop, because this is 2 hours and 6 minutes long, and he wanted to chop it down to more around like the 90-minute-ish mark, right? Somewhere like that. He wanted to chop
something like that, yeah.
A significant chunk of the movie out, right? And that when that happened, that the original director got upset because he was like, well, and you would, like you were saying, in some cases, rightly so, where you say, hey, I made this movie, and you're just like excising a huge chunk of it. But they wanted to do that because it would make more money, right? Because Transformers Revenge or the Rise of the Butt Spark. What is the new one called? The Age of Extinction.
Age of Extinction.
Made how many gajillions? I'm actually looking at Box Office Mojo right now, trying to figure out how much some of these things have made. But they wanted it to be a more glitzy, commercially viable movie. Do you know the last time? Do you know some of the other? I mean, Harvey Weinstein has apparently he's got a track record of going in and hacking foreign movies up, right? So do you know what the last one was that he did that with?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay,
I've heard a lot of stories about him giving direction to the directors, telling them how, you need to do this. No, it needs to be rated PG-13. I know we agreed to an R, but I changed my mind, and now it has to be PG-13. Fuck your contract. Make it PG-13. You know, I've heard a lot of stories about that, but I can't think of a specific one where it was a foreign film that he chopped it up to make it more marketable.
Do you remember? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I see. I guess when I originally heard this story, I just went, okay, well, I mean, you know, I don't go see movies in the theater anyway, but like, if they did that, then I'll just wait and get some Korean Blu-ray of Snowpiercer.
Yeah, exactly.
And watch it, because I don't have any interest in watching. I don't give a shit if a movie is 3 hours long, as long as it's a good 3 hours. Now, on the other hand, Harvey Weinstein should have taken Peter Jackson's King Kong and cut it down to about 90 minutes, because that movie was too fucking long. By the way, Transformers Age of Extinction estimate, it's been out for what, 2 weeks now? $197 million.
Still hasn't made its budget back yet.
Yeah, 210,
based on that number.
Yeah, $210 million is the same production budget. On the other hand, Snowpiercer came out the same week and is at $2 million domestic total. Yeah, see, look at this. There's a whole website. Just tell me everything I need to know. Boom, boom, boom. This goes back to that last question, right? It'd be wonderful if Box Office Mojo would start doing video game shit. I mean, this is so easy to look up. I don't know, man. I have to, you know, I'm kind of one of those people, just talking earlier about Jodorowsky's Dune. I tend to put more emphasis on the person making the thing than the financial production apparatus around it. I will tend to always usually defer to the artist and not the corporate structure around them. But in some cases it makes sense when you have people whose basically their entire reason for being is making sure that these things can be financially successful so that people can do more of them. On the other hand, I think that part of that attitude is the reason why we see so much samey bullshit in both the video game and movie industry. Because
it is, you know, it's not like you got one person turning it out. This is an entire committee of people, and all of their skills and foibles and everything go into the pot. Yep.
I would like to see the movie before I become some sort of advocate to say like, oh, you should have released it in all the theaters. But then on the other hand, when I watch the trailer for it, I'm like, that's not the kind of movie that it seems like most people go to see. Right? Or not like...
Absolutely. No, you're right.
People like us, you know, you guys listen to the show who are probably more into like more interesting movies and stuff like that. But when you got like Joe Average, you know, shoving popcorn in their face and you go, it's a post-apocalyptic movie about these people on a train and they've got a society. Tilda Swinton looks like garbage and Chris Evans has a beard. And they're going to go, but there's an ape riding a horse with a machine gun. That's Marky Mark riding a robot, riding a Tyrannosaurus that breathes fire. I want to see the Tyrannosaurus breathe the fire, not Chris Evans and messed up looking Tilda Swinton. Like,
that is the general public.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they should have had Chris Evans riding the train in the movie poster, like Optimus Prime. They should
on a saddle.
They should just start putting Optimus Prime in other movies. Like he's just in the movie inexplicably. He's in a drama or something, just playing like he's an actor, right? The Optimus Prime has become an actor, so they could put him on the movie poster, and then people go in to watch the movie, and it's some long-winded period piece drama, but it's just got Optimus Prime in a wig and a period costume, full-size Optimus Prime just walking around. Peter Cullen's voice being like,
"This may be the greatest idea you've ever had,
Mr. Darcy." All right, we got one more question, then we're going to get out of here. This one is from our the person who's emailed before. I don't know if we ever came to a decision, Jason, about whether this was Oni's laughter or Oni slaughter. I'm going to say Oni slaughter because you don't just get to say the word slaughter enough. Greetings and salutations, masters of the rage. Here's a quickie. Rumor has it that the next non-Mortal Kombat X character that NetherRealm Studios might possibly add to the roster might be the great hunter himself, the Predator. when last time it was Kratos from God of War and later Freddy Krueger from the new Nightmare movie. So my question is obvious but fun. What characters would you guys like to see get added in the new Mortal Kombat roster? And of course, what would their fatalities be? The Predator is a perfect choice for me, and I'm expecting a lot of live skinning and spine-ripping fun if the humor comes true. Sincerely yours, Oni Slaughter.
What character? Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, yeah? Okay, what would her fatality be?
She would open her mouth and all sorts of inane New York accented bullshit would come out, and then the opponent would shoot itself in the fucking head.
Okay. I think Joe Biden would make a good Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah. Sean Hannity.
Oh my God! What if NetherRealm made like you know how he had Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right? What if they made like the Fox News MSNBC fighting game where you got like Rachel Maddow and fucking Bill O'Reilly just brutally beating the shit out of each other at the end. You could Rachel Maddow just fucking rips
I would
Bill
play
O'Reilly's
that,
spine
but
out.
only if they all died at the end of every round.
No matter who wins at the end of the round, it's just like a hand comes up and presses a little button, goes boop, and the other person's head just explodes.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of. I mean, it's easy to fall back on Broforce actually when I think about stuff like. I think Machete would make a great Mortal Kombat character, right?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
I think actually a lot of Robert Rodriguez's characters would probably be pretty decent in Mortal Kombat. I don't know, something that's in the public consciousness. I guess, you can't put... I never really thought the whole DC versus Mortal Kombat universe thing even really worked, but...
It was just kind of a gimmick. I want to see Loretta in there.
Yeah. Of the Rage Select Pantheon, do you think Loretta's the one to get in there?
I think so.
What about Gary Marspan? You get him in there?
I'd rather see Loretta. Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I just had a really good... Oh, I just had the perfect idea. I'm going to...
Get over here. Oh, I'm coming, baby.
What the fatality is, like she just turns her back to the camera and lifts up her top, and then whoever the character is, their faces just melt off like in Indiana Jones.
Yes.
So I'm going to say the dude from the Raid, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's an easy one, but the one that's
Rama.
The one that's more obscure that I would rather have in there instead of the dude from the Raid is Ricky from the story of Ricky O.
That's perfect.
That would be the best because that was like watching Mortal Kombat on the screen.
Absolutely perfect.
Yep. All right, so that do you have any more, Jason? You think of anything else?
That's all I got.
That's all you got. All right, well, we're done, folks. So this podcast is gonna go up a little bit late, but next week, our podcast should be up at the normal time and day. I'm going to tell you guys right now that this next week, I'm going out of town over the weekend from Friday until Monday. I don't think it's going to affect very much on Rage Select, except I don't know if we're actually going to be streaming on Sunday. And if videos go up a day or a few hours late, just bear with me. My cousins get married. I'm going to give myself a couple days of vacation and get out of town. So with that in mind, if you guys want to send, gals want to send in your questions, mail@rageselect.com is the email address. That is mail@rageselect.com. Send them in, and we'll answer them. And Jason, can you give us any space itinerary? Do you know what part of the quadrant you're going to be in next week?
SETI Alpha 5.
Oh, no. Botany Bay. Oh, no.
Botany